player that we're going to talk about, we're going to stay in Texas and we're going to go to Houston and we're going to talk about Jamal Shead. 22 years of age, 6'2", maybe a little bit generous in terms of height as a point guard. We already saw a small point guard out of Houston go in the first round last season with Marcus Sasser, which, by the way, all rookie team voting came out. Someone put Marcus Sasser on the second team, and it's like, okay, like I'm not really sure what we're doing with some of those votes, but that's okay. Jamal Shead played 31 minutes a night. He averaged almost 9 assists per 40 minutes. So we haven't seen, out of the guys that I have chosen for us to, or you and me have chosen to talk about, we haven't seen anyone who's that level of a passing talent coming through. 32% 3-point rate, 25 usage. His free throws well. The 3 steals per 40 is good. So I'll ask you this basic question. Jamal Shead, is the calling card going to be passing as a small guard, or is it going to be defense as a small guard?
Defense. That man is. I was watching at the combine the lateral quickness drill, which I think it's called the agility. It's like the lane agility. I always forget the name of it. But you know what it is. You backpedal, you sidestep, you sprint, and that's the transition. I have never. If he barely touched the cone and they disqualified it, it would have been the fastest attempt I've ever seen. Like, granted, I've seen 2 years worth, so it's not exactly like I've seen every year up close, but. It was ridiculous. His defense, his ability to stay in front of everybody was also apparent at the scrimmage. We've seen it for years at Houston, and he does pass very well. I think he has a chance to be the best guard defender in the draft. The problem is, though, he can't shoot.
Okay. Well, that is a problem, isn't it? So again, I'm gonna be the stand-in for the dumb person, the casual person, the person coming in late, because I am. But we saw it. We saw Marcus Sasser be this tenacious small guard coming from Houston last season. Wouldn't say his defense held up particularly well in the NBA. Didn't know his shooting didn't hold up either. That might change in the future. So in terms of Shead being that next guy that is the smaller point guard after Sasser has left, or they were playing together last season, obviously. But where does his defense rank compared to that, or compared to another guard who came in as the defense being his calling card in whenever it was 5 years ago, like a Javon Carter coming out of West Virginia? Where does Shead sit as that sort of tenacious on-ball defender?
Yeah, so that the comps to Javon Carter are tough because Javon was a really good shooter, and his way he impacted defense was more with his hands, whereas Shead wins with his feet. And they're similarly built. Jamal Shead actually measured in at 6 feet, almost flat without shoes, which is just the big thing for me. Is just we don't see this combination of, no matter how good you are on defense, there's been a lot of different guys that have come in and be really good defenders that cannot shoot, but they can pass too. The thing is, if you're not 6'3" or taller, it's every inch really below 6'4", actually. You have to be that much better at everything else to really stick.
Now, I just realized I called him Shead instead of Shed, so that's my bad on that one.
Minor. It's the accent. It's not your fault.
No, it's definitely not the accent. It's just me being wrong. Okay, so that brings us to an overall overarching philosophy then. You can talk, look, he's this great defender, right? He's got some passing upside, but really good defense. That's fine. But what is any argument, Rich? We watch the NBA at the moment. We watch the playoffs. We watch the way the games are going. In what world is a 6-foot point guard ever worth it? Like, when is that? Like, okay, Mike Conley's not particularly tall. He's 6'1", maybe. Like, he's not very tall. But like, when is a point guard? You can say, it's a second round pick. Who cares? And it's getting to a stage, I feel, that's like, I'm not even sure that's worth it. Like, you get him, he gets out there, he gets cooked, he doesn't play. Like, is there just a stage where it's just like, I'm not, unless you're hitting 6'3", I'm not bothering. Yeah.
If you look, let's just take away 2 very obvious, honestly, even 3 obvious outlier prospects who are 6 feet or taller, or shorter, that have stuck. There's Chris Paul, Fred VanVleet, Kyle Lowry. They are such outliers that I'm not even going to include them. The closest player I think that Shed could be, and they're very different in how they impact defense, such low-hanging fruit, but Jose Alvarado might be the next best sub 6-foot player. That's tough. And Jose Alvarado isn't exactly raking up minutes. No. So he's very popular, but he doesn't actually play that much and doesn't have as nearly big of an impact as you would think the conversation makes it out to be.
Oh, exactly. Like, there's an easy argument. You look at the Pelicans roster that at times they just don't play him because they can just get Daniels out there to get some of those minutes, and then Jordan Hawkins is out there for shooting, and then where does Jose sit? And so it's one of those guys that comes in and does a few little things, but you're always looking and go, yeah, but how do we do better? Like, how do we improve what this guy does? And those names you brought up, like, I think one of the common things, like Chris Paul obviously is Chris Paul, like, yeah, the IQ and all that's off the charts, but like VanVleet and Lowry, they're just strong as shit. Like, they're just like, look at the way they're built. Look at their body shape. And I'm not saying that Shed can't do that because he's relatively stocky as well. But they are those outlier guys. And what, Lowry was a second round pick and VanVleet was undrafted because it is such a hard thing to get through, and so many guys that are in that sort of archetype just don't make it through. So again, I would say as a default thing, I'm just probably not going to be looking at these guys unless there is just elite outlier stuff. And that, again, would lead us into another discussion on talking about maybe the two guards out of Kentucky who might go in the top 10. Is it worth it? Like, and I tend to lean no. Like, I just don't think it works.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. If I can name you the players this year that, like, there's no indication at the moment that Jamal Shead is going to shoot 35% from three. There's one player this year that was 6 feet or less that shot under 35%, and it was Xavier Simpson. He played 7 games. That's it. So if Jamal Shead cannot shoot right now, there's zero indication that he even be touching NBA courts. Like, it's a bit extreme, but it's also on the table.
All right, today's last question is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It is winner take all time in the NBA and in the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you the shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150. You can bet on spreads and money lines and player props and futures. Whatever it is, you can do that over at FanDuel, but you got to go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, and then you can make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and don't forget to gamble responsibly.